Welcome in, everybody. Today we're taking a deep dive into a really powerful story about resilience during a really dark chapter in Brazil's history. The 1970s with the military dictatorship. We're focusing on the Paiva family and their experiences during this time. And, basically how director Walter Salles brought their story to life in the film I'm Still Here, which is adapted from Marcelo Rubens Paiva's memoir.
It's really fascinating to me. It begs the question, how does a family hold onto their spirit, their joy, even when living under such incredibly oppressive conditions?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
For sure. So let's see if we can uncover some answers.
Okay. Well, one thing that really struck me was just this incredible contrast that the source material presents. On one hand, you have this vivid picture of the Paiva family home in Rio. It sounds like it's amazingly vibrant and idyllic space. It's full of music and art and just this constant flow of friends coming and going.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, the film really portrays it as this kind of Brazilian dream, almost untouched by all the political chaos happening outside. It almost sounds peaceful, But I imagine that peace is pretty fragile, considering, the whole context of the dictatorship.
Oh, absolutely. And Sal's the director. He doesn't let you forget that fragility for a second. He very deliberately interweaves those warm and inviting scenes of family life with these really stark images of military helicopters and army vehicles patrolling the streets.
Gotcha.
So you have this constant sense of impending doom, like a reminder that danger is always lurking just beneath the surface of their seemingly carefree lives.
So he's reminding the audience, this isn't just some happy family drama.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's this constant undercurrent of threat. It colors everything.
Right.
And then that threat becomes all too real when Rubens Paiva, the father, is suddenly arrested.
Oh, wow.
The source material really emphasizes just how brutal and unexpected this event was. One minute they're this family enjoying life, and then bam, their world is just shattered. They're thrown into this state of complete fear and uncertainty.
Yeah. You can only imagine the emotional whiplash of that experience. And I think this is where Eunice Paiva, the mother, really steps into the spotlight.
Oh, absolutely. The source material even says her activism carried significant weight. And it's fascinating because she doesn't just, react emotionally. She channels that energy into taking action. Eunice takes on this role of family leader. And it's not just, providing emotional support, but actively fighting for her husband's release. She even becomes a lawyer, using that knowledge to advocate for others who have suffered under the regime as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So she goes from this artistic, free-spirited woman to this, pillar of strength. A fighter.
Right. It's incredible. And, the source material doesn't shy away from the horrors she goes through in this quest for justice either.
I bet.
The film depicts her visiting her husband in prison and witnessing torture firsthand, the interrogations, and just this constant fear for her own safety and for her daughter. Yeah, these scenes are really difficult to watch, but they're so crucial to understanding, the depth of Eunice's courage and resilience.
Yeah.
It would have been so easy to crumble under that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
But she doesn't. She uses it as fuel to fight back.
That makes her quiet strength even more impactful. It's not just about keeping her family together emotionally.
Right.
It's about actively challenging the system that's wronged them. And speaking of strength, I've heard so much about Fernanda Torres' performance as Eunice.
Oh, yeah.
The source material raves about how nuanced her portrayal is. She captures this really complex mix of grief and determination, and even these small moments of joy.
It's really captivating. She manages to convey these subtle shifts in emotion so authentically. You see the fear in her eyes, the determination in the way she carries herself, and then suddenly there's this flicker of joy as she shares a moment with her children. It's incredible.
Wow.
Torres brings Eunice's strength to life through these tiny details. It's not this loud, defiant heroism. It's this quiet, persistent flame that just refuses to be extinguished.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how she can be both vulnerable and so strong at the same time.
Right.
It's like you said, the weight of the world is on her shoulders, but she's not going to let it crush her.
Nope.
I'm curious about something. The source material mentions that Sal's the director. He intentionally chose not to dwell on the political details of Rubens Paiva's work.
Yeah.
Was that an effective choice, do you think?
I think it was a brilliant move, actually. By focusing more on how Rubens' arrest impacted the family's daily life, Salles makes the story relatable to everyone you know.
Right.
We may not all be experts on Brazilian politics in the 70s, but we can all understand the fear and uncertainty of a family being ripped apart.
Yeah, you're right. It becomes this universal story because it really could be any family, anywhere, going through something similar.
Exactly.
And it also kind of highlights what the regime was really trying to suppress, right? Not just political dissent, but like the very human need for connection and joy.
That's a great point. The source material does a fantastic job of portraying the pie of a family home as this little microcosm of like the free and open society the dictatorship wanted to destroy.
Yeah.
It's described as this haven of art and music and open dialogue, which is such a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere outside their door.
The description of their home really stayed with me. Like the way it was full of these vivid details, like sandy footprints on the yellow sofa, or the sounds of like hippie records and laughter coming from the windows. It sounds so alive.
Right, and then suddenly all that vibrancy is just shattered.
Yeah.
The arrest of Rubens is portrayed as this brutal, almost surgical intrusion into their lives.
Wow.
It's really like watching a delicate ecosystem get bulldozed.
That's a powerful image.
It really drives home the fragility of their freedom and just how devastating political oppression can be on a personal level.
And it's in those moments of disruption and loss that Eunice's strength really shines.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one thing to be resilient when facing personal tragedy, but it's a whole other level when your world is turned upside down by a system that seems determined to break you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Eunice doesn't just navigate this new reality, she challenges it head on.
Right.
She transforms from this free-spirited artist into a lawyer fighting for her family and everyone else who's been silenced. It's incredible.
It really is. It speaks to her unwavering commitment to justice and her refusal to let fear control her.
It's such a powerful example of finding strength in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been so easy for her to just give in to despair,
Yeah.
to be consumed by grief and fear. But instead, she becomes this force to be reckoned with.
I think her journey reminds us that sometimes the most powerful acts of resistance come from everyday people fighting for the things they love. It's not always about these grand gestures of defiance. It's about these small, persistent acts of courage, that chip away at oppression day after day. It's about refusing to let those in power steal your joy, your spirit, or your voice.
That's really well said.
Thank you.
And it reminds us that resilience can look different for everyone, too.
Yeah.
For Eunice, it wasn't just about enduring hardship. It was about actively fighting for a better future.
Yeah.
And speaking of fighting for a better future,
Yeah.
I was really struck by that scene where Eunice insists on her family smiling for a photo, even though they're dealing with so much.
Oh, that scene.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
It had been so easy for them to just let the sadness and fear take over, to let the camera capture their despair. But Eunice, she understood the importance of preserving those moments of joy,
Yeah.
those little flickers of hope.
Yeah. It's like a quiet act of rebellion, isn't it? They're
Yeah.
refusing to let the regime steal their happiness.
Exactly. It's a declaration that their spirits won't be broken. And that photo,
Yeah.
it becomes this symbol of their resilience.
A reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and love can persevere. It's a message that goes beyond the film itself. It speaks to the human spirit's incredible capacity for resilience no matter the challenge.
Yeah, it's a really powerful message. And I think it's interesting how the source material points out that the film doesn't just focus on the horrors of the dictatorship. There's also this element of celebrating life, showcasing the Paiva family's spirit and how they found ways to experience joy even when surrounded by so much darkness.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes this film so captivating. It would have been easy to just focus on the brutality and the trauma.
Right.
And those elements are definitely there, but Salles doesn't let them define the story. He gives us these glimpses of beauty and love, these simple joys of life that just keep going even in the face of oppression.
Like those scenes of the family at the beach, playing music, sharing meals together. It's almost like they're clinging to those moments of normalcy, of connection, as a way to cope.
Exactly. It reminds us that even when things are really tough, life goes on. People find a way to adapt, to find moments of joy, to connect with each other.
Right.
And the film embraces that.
And then there's that really powerful jump to 2014, where we see the Paiva family thriving all those years later. It's such a hopeful ending.
It really is. It speaks to this idea that life is cyclical.
Yeah.
That joy and hope can reemerge even after periods of huge darkness.
Yeah.
It's like a reminder that while trauma can leave scars, it doesn't have to define who we are. The human spirit has this amazing capacity for healing and renewal.
It's a message that we all need to hear, I think, especially in the world we're living in today. It's so easy to get caught up in negativity and despair.
Yeah.
But the Paiva family story reminds us that even when faced with challenges that seem impossible to overcome, there's always hope. there's always a chance for a brighter future.
Absolutely. And I think the way the source material emphasizes the film as a cautionary tale is super important too. The Paiva family story is this powerful reminder that freedom is fragile, and we need to stay aware of anyone who might try to take it from us.
It's a story that hits home, especially with all the authoritarianism we're seeing pop up around the world these days. It's a reminder that the fight for freedom and human rights is never really over.
You're so right. We can't afford to be complacent. We have to learn from the past, be aware of what's happening now, and actively work towards a future where stories like the Paiva families are rare.
Yeah, I agree. So as we finish up our deep dive into I'm Still Here, I want to leave you with this question. How can we each in our own way contribute to building a world where stories like the Paiva families become the exception, not the norm? How do we ensure that history doesn't just repeat itself? It's a big challenge for sure. But I think it's one we can meet if we face it with the same courage, resilience, and hope that Eunice Paiva embodied.